If you could trade, would you? Surely. But all miracles require sacrifice. For their life, yours.
Hey all, Siege here, and in the spirit of the eventual questline involving the Umbras, yeah, remember them? And some as-to-be-named sacrifice, much of the community seems to believe will be required, given the dialogue in the trailer, it got me thinking about a couple different ways they could really go with this. For instance, many think this might have something to do with us having to eventually sacrifice our relationship with the Lotus to, grow up, if you will. Or maybe it's the other way around, if the events of the Apostasy prologue hold any future weight in how it concluded. I'd say, given the trailer for the sacrifice, it's even entirely possible the Warframes themselves might sacrifice their own Tenno, potentially giving the player the opportunity to stop using the current focus system and adopt an entirely new thing secretly in the works. I mean, it's no secret that DE has had to continually adjust the new focus system, refunding the XP twice now to allow for a character rework, so maybe a new concept could be more viable. I don't know. It even works with the game's lore, as the Warframes themselves have some form of free will, shown not only in the Codex, but also in the game during the second Dream Quest. I'm definitely not saying this is coming. I'm just saying that it's not impossible, that's all. Some theories out there are a little bit bolder than others, obviously, but no matter what you think, there is a sacrifice of some sort, some nature, that's coming to the game. Really, the only question is, during the trailer, when we hear Ballas speaking,
if you could trade, would you? Surely. But all miracles require sacrifice. For their life, yours.
Who's Ballas talking to, and who was he talking about? Got me thinking about a lot of things, but really about one thing in particular. You see, I've just recently started my PC Warframe account, and given the limited number of weapons and Warframes I have access to at the moment, and who I wish I had there to use, it brought me to this one singular thought. If the sacrifice turned out to be that I could choose only one Warframe to move forward with in the game, who would it be? If this particular Warframe decided to do, as I mentioned before, and kill the Tenno, go on for itself, and you'd be given the opportunity to play with just that one, who would you choose? Now, let me be clear. I don't think that's where this quest is headed at all, not even for a minute. One of the major strengths of Warframe is the variety of the characters themselves, so they wouldn't actively remove that without something equal to replace it, and at this point, I don't even think that's possible. There's just too much they would be trying to offer a substitute for, given the vast number of frames there are. But not out of the question for other games of this nature to have to choose only one character to play specifically with, generally providing solo and team benefits as well, and for the goal to instead be to progress the power and complexity of the character's specific kit. I mean, honestly, Warframe's not too far away from even having a built-in system already in the game that would support that with the Warframe Syndicate mods. Really, all that would need to happen is to have more of these mods available for each character. Maybe even some made to synergize together, much like how I see Necros' mods already do. Not a change I would ever make, and again, it's not one I see ever happening in the game, but the question that I pose to all of you is this. If you had to choose just one Warframe to continue on with the rest of the game with, who would it be? Remember, that frame has to be useful to you, or if nothing else, you have to be able to feel comfortable enough to use them in really all situations, not just some, because that's all you've got. Let me know in the comments below who that frame is and what makes them worthy of being the only one you would not sacrifice amongst all the frames that you may have already accumulated. I'm guessing for most of you, this isn't going to be an easy decision. What's that? Who would I choose? Well, I'm glad you decided to ask. Like many of you, I weighed and continue to weigh quite a few frames against each other for all their benefits. Benefit to the team, variety of the kit, damage potential, fun to play with. And I think for many that already know who my favorite frames in the game are, this is probably going to shock you a little bit. However, if I had to choose just one frame for everything moving forward, it would be Oberon. Now, don't get me wrong, Oberon is not what I would call my favorite overall frame, definitely not. But there's just very few situations where I don't find him useful. He has good damage potential as well as crowd control with Smite, Hallowed Ground, and Reckoning, and he can act as a support with his renewal, especially if he's modded correctly. He's tanky enough to be able to absorb a fair bit of damage, and his speed is average enough to be able to contend with spy and rescue missions without too much issue. As I mentioned before, he's certainly not my favorite, and I don't even really use him as often as others I would say that were in the same class. Rhino, Octavia, Frost, Saren, and Nidus are all frames that would also work, were highly considered, and honestly, I enjoy playing with more. But I think, for me at least, the balance between damage, crowd control, and support is perfect. And if I had to go with just one, well, that's who I would choose. But that's just my opinion, and with this video in particular, I'm really interested in hearing yours. Remember, down in the comments, one frame and why. I'm curious to see who the community values most amongst all the frames as a whole, not just who their favorite frames are, because I believe that there is a distinction between the two things. I feel like this is going to be really interesting. At any rate, I hope you enjoyed the video today, and I want you all to take care, have a wonderful day, and I'll talk at you in the next one. Bye.